Randy's wife stood in their apartment doorway in Houston, arms folded, smiling like cruelty was a hobby, and told him in front of his coworker that he was the kind of man women settle for until somebody better clocks in. Then she kissed the coworker right there, slow and disrespectful, while Randy still had his work badge on. She laughed when his face dropped. The coworker laughed too. Randy had never felt so naked in his life, not even as a kid getting roasted at church for wearing hand-me-down shoes. Here's how it happened. Randy and Simone had met 5 years earlier at a food truck park near Midtown, both reaching for the last catfish boy at the same window. Simone snatched it first, then took one look at Randy pretending not to care and split it in half with a grin. "You look like you were raised right," she told him. "You can have the bigger half." Randy, who usually got tongue-tied around pretty women, somehow joked back that she was bribing him to overlook theft. She laughed so hard she snorted lemonade through her nose, and he loved her a little right then. They built a life that felt soft around the edges. Saturday mornings meant old-school R&B playing low, while Randy made cinnamon waffles and Simone danced in fuzzy socks on the kitchen tile, hair wrapped up, singing off-key with full confidence. She'd steal bacon from the pan and blame evaporation. He'd act offended, and she'd kiss him mid-sentence to shut him up. When they were good, they were very good. They drove to Galveston for cheap day trips, argued over directions, made up before sunset, and came home sunburned and happy. Randy thought he had found the kind of love that survives bills and stress. Randy worked in facilities management for a logistics company near the ship channel, a steady job with decent benefits and long hours. He was the man people called when something was broken, delayed, or disorganized, and he took quiet pride in being dependable. Simone used to brag on him to her cousins, calling him Mr. Handle It. When his supervisor asked Randy to help train a new employee named Marcus, Randy said yes without thinking twice. Marcus was younger, sharp dresser, loud laugh, always trying to act like the coolest man in any room. Randy figured he was harmless. At first, Marcus played little brother real smooth. He called Randy OG, even though Randy was only 34. He asked questions, took notes, and complimented Randy's patience. Randy brought him lunch on a double shift once when the cafeteria closed early, and Marcus repaid him by buying him a gas station coffee, so sugary it tasted like melted cake. Randy laughed and drank half anyway. He even invited Marcus over for a fight night watch party one Friday. Simone made wings, Marcus brought cheap beer, and everybody joked like family. Looking back, Randy would remember the way Marcus kept watching Simone when she wasn't looking. The first warning sign came small and ugly. Simone started clowning Randy in front of people, just enough to make him question if he was being sensitive. At a cousin's birthday cookout in 3rd Ward, she told the table Randy still folded his underwear like he was in summer camp. Everybody laughed, and Randy laughed too, because what else was he supposed to do? Later, in the car, he told her it bothered him. She rolled her eyes and said he needed thicker skin. "You so emotional, Randy." It was a joke. He apologized for bringing it up, which bothered him even more. Then came the phone habits. Simone used to leave her phone anywhere, countertop, couch, bathroom sink, probably the freezer if she was distracted. Suddenly, it stayed face down and close, always charging on her side of the bed. She took calls on the balcony. She smiled at texts and typed fast with both thumbs like she was defusing a bomb. Randy noticed and tried not to become the suspicious husband he hated in movies. He told himself marriage had seasons. Maybe she was planning something, maybe venting to friends, maybe he was tired. But tired men still recognize when a room changes temperature. Marcus changed too. At work, he started getting slick in ways that looked playful until they didn't. He joked that Randy needed to stop rushing home and let married life miss you a little. He began wearing cologne so strong it reached the hallway before he did. One afternoon, Marcus mentioned Simone's favorite seafood spot in Pearland, a place Randy had never taken him. Randy froze for half a second and asked how he knew she liked it. Marcus didn't even blink. "Man, everybody likes seafood." Then he grinned and kept walking. Randy stood there with a clipboard in his hand, feeling stupid. Randy tried to say what he thought was still there. He booked a small room at a bed and breakfast in Fredericksburg for their anniversary, even though money was tight. Simone used to talk about wanting to see vineyards and wear a sundress somewhere quiet. He packed her favorite snacks, cleaned the car, and even bought a little silver bracelet he couldn't really afford. On the drive, he tried to make them laugh by singing Luther Vandross notes way above his range. Simone actually laughed, a real one, and for a few hours Randy let himself believe they were okay. They took pictures under string lights and held hands at dinner. That night, Randy reached for her in bed, and she turned away like he was a stranger asking for too much. He told himself not to take it personal, but pain has a smell, and he could smell it all over the room. The next morning at breakfast, she kept checking her phone under the table. Randy finally asked if she was seeing someone. Simone looked him dead in the eye and said, "If I was, you'd deserve it for being boring." Then she smiled at the waitress and asked for more coffee. Randy laughed weakly because he didn't know what else to do with humiliation at 8:12 in the morning. The truth arrived on a Tuesday like bad weather. Randy got off early because a vendor canceled, and he stopped by home to surprise Simone with takeout from the soul food spot she liked on Alameda. He walked in hearing laughter from the bedroom. Not TV laughter, not a phone video, real intimate laughter. He already knew before he opened the door. Simone was in his bed with Marcus, tangled in sheets Randy had washed the night before. Marcus sat up cursing. Simone didn't cover herself. She stared at Randy, annoyed, like he was interrupting. The takeout bag slipped out of his hand, and collard greens spilled across the floor. Randy couldn't move. His chest felt tight, then numb. Marcus started talking fast, saying it wasn't what it looked like, which would have been funny if Randy wasn't dying inside. Simone burst out laughing at that and said, "Please, let's not insult each other." She got up and wrapped a robe around herself slow, almost theatrical. "You've been checked out for years, Randy. Marcus makes me feel alive." Randy asked how long, voice shaking. Marcus looked at the wall. Simone answered for him. "Long enough that everybody but you knew." That line hit harder than the cheating. It made his whole marriage feel like a group joke. The humiliation didn't stop at the bedroom. Simone called her sister before Randy even left the apartment and framed it like he'd finally had a breakdown. By evening, 2 of her cousins were texting him, saying he needed to stop being dramatic and let Simone be happy. Marcus came to work the next day, smirking, acting untouched. Randy heard 2 coworkers go quiet when he walked into the break room. One of them wouldn't meet his eyes. Randy wanted to disappear. He worked through lunch, skipped dinner, and sat in his truck for an hour after shift staring at the steering wheel, too ashamed to drive. When Randy tried to talk to Simone about separating the bills fairly, she got colder. She told him to move out if he was so uncomfortable. The lease was in both names, but she knew he'd leave because he couldn't stand seeing Marcus's shoes by the door. Randy packed a duffel bag and ended up on his cousin Darnell's couch in 3rd Ward, a lumpy thing with springs that felt like revenge. Darnell tried to lighten the mood, saying, "This couch built character in 3 generations of men." Randy laughed once, then cried in the bathroom so nobody could hear him. Grief made him feel 14 again. The money part was its own kind of cruelty. Simone kept using the joint account for groceries, ride shares, and salon appointments while Randy was still covering most of the rent because his name was tied to it. He didn't want an eviction on his record, so he paid and paid while sleeping on a couch. Marcus, meanwhile, posted little pictures online from inside Randy's old living room. Just his shoes on the table, a game on TV, a caption like comfort. Randy blocked him, then unblocked him, then blocked him again. Humiliation can turn a grown man into somebody checking his pain in 6-inch screens. A week later, Randy got a call from a collections company asking about a personal loan he'd supposedly opened months earlier. He thought it was a scam until they read off the last 4 digits of his social security number and the address on the application. His old address. The apartment. Randy felt a chill move through him. He pulled his credit report that night on Darnell's laptop and found 2 accounts he didn't recognize, both delinquent. Darnell looked over his shoulder and whistled low. "Man, this ain't cheating no more. This is theft." Randy sat there stunned, realizing Simone hadn't just broken his heart. She had been gutting his future. For 2 days, Randy barely slept. His mind ping-ponged between heartbreak and paperwork. He'd remember Simone's laugh in the kitchen and then see fraud alerts on the screen. Darnell, who was usually all jokes, got serious. He handed Randy a yellow legal pad and said, "Write every date you know, every transaction, every weird thing. Don't go over there yelling. Build a case." It was the best advice Randy got. He started listing timelines, screenshots, account numbers, texts, and work schedules. The act of writing steadied him. Pain was still pain, but facts gave it shape, and shape gave him something to hold. Randy hired a family law attorney in Harris County after comparing reviews and prices like his life depended on it, because it did. Her name was Denise Walker, a sharp black woman with silver locks and the kind of calm voice that made chaos sit down. She listened without interrupting, then asked for documents, not feelings. Randy respected that. When he started apologizing for getting emotional, she cut him off gently. "You're not weak, Mr. Jefferson. You were betrayed. Now we move correctly." Denise explained what counted as marital property, what to stop paying, and how to document identity theft. Randy left her office, standing a little straighter. The romantic part of Randy's life should have been over, but pain makes room for strange grace. Denise referred him to a financial counselor named Nia in Sugar Land to help him repair the credit damage. Randy almost canceled the appointment, embarrassed to sit across from anybody and admit how badly he got played. Nia made it easy. She wore big glasses, kept peppermint candy in a bowl, and laughed at Randy's awkward jokes like she knew he was using humor as armor. When he called his spending habits tragic but budget-conscious, she snorted and nearly dropped her pen. It was the first time his laugh felt natural in months. Nia never flirted, not really, and Randy was too raw to try. But she treated him with a kind of respect he hadn't felt at home in a long time. She helped him build a recovery plan line by line, dispute letters, payment priorities, savings targets, fraud affidavit deadlines. Randy joked that she ran his life like a drill sergeant with lip gloss. She told him, "And yet you keep showing up." He did. Every Thursday after work, he'd bring coffee and they'd review progress. Sometimes they talked about music, family, or the ridiculous things clients said. Once she admitted she hated raisins and potato salad with a passion, and Randy almost proposed on the spot. While Randy rebuilt, Simone and Marcus kept being reckless. Simone texted Randy only when she wanted money or access to something, and every message had the same tone, entitled, irritated, never sorry. Marcus got cockier at work. He'd disappear for long stretches, come back smelling like expensive cologne and arrogance, and still submit sloppy reports. Randy noticed he was using the company fuel card on days the work truck never left the lot. He said nothing at first. Denise had told him to stay clean and stay patient. "Truth is stronger when it's organized," she said. Randy wrote down dates and photograph logs, then went home and kept quiet. The divorce process was ugly because Simone wanted everything and accountability for nothing. She claimed Randy was controlling, then demanded he keep paying utilities while she stayed in the apartment with Marcus. Denise shut that down fast with filings Randy could barely understand but deeply appreciated. Then came the fraud evidence. Bank statements, signature comparisons, loan documents with timestamps tied to Simone's devices, texts where she casually mentioned moving money around and told Randy not to trip over paperwork. Denise laid it out like bricks. Randy watched her prepare the packet and felt something new growing in him. Not anger, exactly. Discipline. He was done reacting. He was building. The company audit happened because Randy reported what he could prove, no more and no less. He submitted mileage logs, key card records, and fuel purchases through the proper internal channel, then let the process run. He didn't name the affair. He didn't add a dramatic speech. He just gave them numbers. Marcus must have thought nobody was paying attention because he'd been charging gas, meals, and little personal detours for months. Once the auditors started asking questions, his swagger cracked. He tried acting friendly with Randy again, calling him bro in the hallway. Randy looked right through him. Respect had left the building a long time ago. Karma hit in stages, then all at once. First, the company terminated Marcus for misuse of company resources and falsifying logs. No severance. Security walked him out before lunch. Randy didn't watch, but he heard about it from 3 people by the end of the day. Then Simone got served over the fraudulent accounts and was named in a civil action tied to the identity theft and debt damages. She called Randy furious, screaming that he was trying to ruin her life. He listened quietly and said, "I told the truth." She cursed him out and hung up. No apology, no remorse, just rage at consequences. Simone and Marcus stayed together long enough to become each other's punishment. Without Marcus's paycheck and with legal bills piling up, they started turning on one another. Mutual friends fed Randy little updates he never asked for. Loud arguments, a broken TV, Marcus moving out, Marcus moving back in, Simone blaming him for everything, Marcus blaming her for dragging him into drama. Randy stopped listening after a while because it no longer fed him. Pain had made him curious at first, but healing made him protective of his peace. Denise finalized the divorce terms, and Randy signed the papers in silence, hands steady. Around that same time, Randy accepted a transfer to the company's Dallas branch. It wasn't glamorous, but it was clean distance and a fresh start. He rented a modest place in DeSoto with good light in the kitchen and a quiet street where nobody knew his story. He bought secondhand furniture and assembled it himself, cussing under his breath at confusing instructions and one rebellious bookshelf that leaned like it had an attitude. Darnell drove up one weekend to help and roasted Randy's grown man apartment until they were both crying laughing. "This couch don't have no trauma in it," Darnell said. "That alone is worth rent." Randy kept meeting with Nia remotely even after the move. The sessions eventually shifted from crisis management to planning. Emergency fund, retirement contributions, credit utilization. Randy found he liked watching numbers improve. It felt like proof that quiet work changes lives. One Friday, after they finished reviewing his budget, Nia asked how his kitchen looked because she remembered him saying he wanted to cook more. Randy angled the camera toward a cast-iron skillet and a sad bunch of cilantro. She laughed and told him he needed help. A month later, she was in Dallas for a training conference, and they met for dinner. That dinner felt easy in a way Randy had forgotten love could feel. Nia wore a simple green dress and no performance. They ate at a small black-owned spot in Oak Cliff, split peach cobbler, and laughed so hard at Randy's story about Darnell trying to season a smoke detector that people at the next table started laughing too. When Randy got quiet, Nia touched his hand and asked, "You okay?" He told her he was, and he meant it. Not because life had magically fixed itself, but because for the first time in a long time, he wasn't bracing for humiliation. He was just present. Randy's comeback stayed private on purpose. He repaired his credit. He paid off the legal mess Simone created. He kept his head down at work and earned a reputation in Dallas for being reliable, the same way he always had, but now with stronger boundaries. He and Nia took things slow, cooking at home, walking at Cedar Ridge Preserve, arguing playfully about whether old Anita Baker counts as cleaning music or date night music. He never posted success online, never took victory laps. The people who heard him didn't deserve front row seats to his healing. His peace became his own kind of luxury, and he protected it. Randy used to think strength meant enduring disrespect without making noise. What he learned is that real strength is knowing when to stop pleading for decency and start documenting truth. Simone and Marcus never felt sorry, not once, and Randy stopped needing them to. Their downfall came from their own greed, and his rise came from patience, paperwork, and people who cared enough to tell him the truth. The funny part is he lost everything he thought he needed and found a better life in the quiet. The moral is simple. When someone shames you for being good, stay good anyway, but get smart, get legal, and keep your dignity. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.